Unstoppable Real Estate Investors. Rayanna Starr here, your hostess, with my guest Brad Chandler or Candler? Chandler. And I'm glad you're tuning in, and we're a little late today because I have had a really jam-packed schedule. I've been doing some fun things with the CEO over at Start Virtual, Cody Barton, Pace Morby's business partner. We're doing this program called Scaling Up with VA, showing entrepreneurs how to assess their business and activities. And so I've just been back to back, and that made me a little late for today's meeting. So I appreciate Brad's patience. I communicated ahead of time that I would be late. I hope Rose got it out there in the group. So thanks for waiting on us. But I have a treat for you, everybody. Again, we meet every Wednesday at noon Eastern, every Friday at noon Eastern. Wednesdays is the superstars of real estate. Fridays are the up and coming, and it's a member spotlight. And then we also, Rufus Thibodeau and I also just started Mindset and Marketing Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern. So tune in on one of these lives and suck up some morsels of value, and please engage. Let us know you're here. Give us feedback. Let us know what value you're getting. But I want to start with Brad has flipped 4,000 homes over the last 19 years. He's pretty much done with that, but we're going to talk about it. And now he's a coach like me. So yes, we are going to geek out about coaching and mindset and empowering people. But first, we'll get through the real estate stuff for those of you that are here for that, and talk about how he flipped 4,000 homes in 19 years. So if you're looking at that over the course of 20 years, let's just round up 4,000 flips in, well, let's see, 4,000 divided by 19. That's like 210 and a half flips every year for almost 20 years. So think about that volume and the pace of that. So before we get into that, Brad, what were you doing before you became a real estate investor? And then talk us into the transition.
Yeah. So you said I'm slowing down, or I'm not doing it. Just the opposite. Actually, we did 300 deals last year. Fortunately, I only worked about 2.5 hours a week. Excuse me, a day. A week. I come in one day a week for a manager's meeting the last 2 hours. So 2 hours a week, we're able to do 300 houses. So thankfully, I've got a management team in place. But if you want to hear my story, we're gonna go back to 9th grade when I read a book on how to buy real estate with no money down and knew I wanted to do real estate. And in late 2002, an investor bought my neighbor's house. The house was like a complete disaster. I went and talked to him, and he goes, "Yeah, I buy houses at 30% below market, fix them up and resell them." So that was in about December of 2002. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So for 8 long, tedious months, I tried to find my first deal, and I couldn't. I kept going to these REIA meetings, and I saw everyone else making the big checks. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. So I was just super persistent. In July of 2003, I bought my first house. In July and August of 2003, I bought 6 houses. In October, I was working a full-time job for a real estate developer, and I came home and I told my wife at the time, I quit. I'm going to start Express Home Buyers. I'm going to do this full time. She goes, "Are you crazy? We've got a newborn son, and I've got 2 kids that we've got to support." I was like, "It'll be fine." And here we are 19 years later, and it was all fine.
And now she's learned to trust you, and your
she's my ex-wife, so she probably doesn't trust me.
All right. So it was a little bit of a struggle at the beginning. So how long were you into it? What was the timeline before you got your first deal under contract?
8 months. And so I'd worked.
There's still people that have done all kinds of expensive education that have been around for like years and still haven't done their first deal. So the fact that you got your first deal in under a year is actually good, because there's quite a learning curve, but I get it when you have your sights on something. And then you scaled quickly. Once you got that first one in April, by August, you had 6 more under contract. In that, once you got your mojo flowing, once you started getting deals, so let's start from April of 2003, how many from that point forward did you do that year?
I mean, we're talking a long, like, I mean, so in 2003, when I bought my first house in July, I probably bought 5 or 6 more houses. So maybe I did 10 or 15 in total. And then we really scaled. I think in 2004, we probably did, between 50 and 75, and then it went to 100 and then up.
Okay, so let's go back to that. So talk about the scaling going from 1 to 5 to closing out your first year after 8 months. The first year when you started doing deals. After that 8, let's just say 8 months was school.
Yeah.
Okay, started doing deals. That first year from April that year to April 2004 or till the end of the year, December, you did a total of about 15 deals. How did you go from struggling for 8 months to get one deal and then scaling? Because even that is extraordinary in most real estate investors' world. And then let's talk about how you continue to scale in leaps and bounds, like what it took to do that in your mindset and also in your approach. Hi, Yesenia. Hi, Cameron.
It's a great question. No one's ever asked me that before. And when I think about it, you're right. Like, wow, I bought 6 houses in 2 months. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I bought a total of 10 or 15. 3 of the first houses I bought were from one owner. One was a VA foreclosure, and none of them needed a ton of work. I did listen to a Ron LeGrand tape, and he said, don't do the work, just list it as a handyman special. So that was another house. And then I did a full rehab on a property. And just like every other new investor, I underestimated the renovation cost and I overestimated the ARV, but I still made $60,000. And my previous salary just a few months before that was $60,000 all year. So that's when I was like, I made $60,000 in one flip. I think I'm going to do this full time. So in October, I brought on a partner. His name is Judd Allen, who is still my partner to this day. We have a fantastic partnership.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Wow. That speaks volumes of you two. But did you know him before you brought him on as a partner? Was he friend? How did you become partners? And how did you select him? And I'm throwing a bunch of boom, 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 bulletproof bullet, and why has it worked for all these years?
Yeah. So I started the business with a negative $80,000 net worth. So I had no money, $80,000 negative net worth from my graduate school program. I bought a house in his neighborhood. He was driving home a different way. I'm a marketer. So every house I own, I put a We Buy Houses sign in front. He called me because he couldn't believe someone could be doing a house in his neighborhood. He just thought it was too nice of a neighborhood. We went to lunch, and over a chicken cheese steak at this Latino rotisserie place, I told him my vision. I was like, I want to do TV advertising. My dad's an attorney and he's made his living off TV advertising. I want to do TV advertising. He's like, dude, I've got $10,000 to my name. I want in, I'll give it to you. And so that's how I found him.
Wow.
I was looking for quality of life and money. So I didn't want to work. I wanted to be able to take a vacation, be with my family. And I also needed money. So he fit those two bills. And, why has it worked? You were asking about scaling. When he came on in October, he kind of took over the construction and the financing piece. And I focused on sales and marketing. And then as we couldn't keep up, we would just bring people in and give them the sales and just start splintering off stuff.
Divided and conquered, played to your strengths.
Yeah.
And then you just kept doing that.
Kept doing it. And he, why do we get along? Great. I think because we're similar and then we're completely different. We had a lot of chaos in our business for years. One, because of my mindset that we'll get to in a few minutes, but 2, because we're both visionaries. We didn't have an integrator. So we had 2 visionaries running the company for about 17 or 18 years. And man, did we have a lot of chaos.
That's amazing that you got as much done as you did.
I know.
What do you think that now he's referring to integrator visionaries? There's a book called, is it Rocket Fuel?
Yep.
Yeah, Rocket Fuel. Who's it by, Brad?
Gino Wickman, I think.
Gino Gene Wickman.
Gino
Wickman.
Yeah.
And he talks about these different personality types. If you're in the Pace Morby sub 2 community or Pace's creative financing with Pace Morby group, which is his free group, there's like 75 or 80,000 people in the group. Then you'll hear these terms being thrown around: visionary, integrator. What are some of the other ones?
I mean, those are the 2 biggest ones. Those
are the 2 most popular. And usually like Cody's like a rock star integrator and Pace is totally a visionary. So, which isn't a surprise to anybody that knows those two. But it's really, visionaries are the ones who have all the ideas and they're the dreamers, and then the integrators are the more analytical engineer scientist types that are making sure that the integrator doesn't drive everybody off a cliff. They're making sure that I's are dotted, T's are crossed. In other models, it would be, say, the analytical and the driver, or the analytical and the influencer, because visionaries can fall into both those categories. So go ahead. I mean, this is blowing my mind how two visionaries freaking rocked it, because you were averaging, by the way, Yesenia Vasquez Rosa is a phenomenal investor. We met in Fortune Builders. We were both coaches. We've both gone through NLP training. And she said, the great question, because 4,000 flips is fire. And she said, I've only done 275 transactions, and that's a lot. And Yesenia, how long have you been a real estate investor? She also wanted to ask what marketing you would recommend in today's market. Now, we'll pin that, because I feel like I've taken you on 4 different tangents and I want to bring it back. So the first thing is coming back to you two visionaries, and then backing off of that to how did you scale specifically? I mean, you kept hiring people, but how did two visionaries, did you just kind of naturally gravitate towards integrators? So let's hang out there for a few minutes.
Yeah, no. So I read a book. One of the first books I ever read starting the company was the guy that teaches you how to systematize your business. I don't know why I'm blanking. It'll come to me in a second. And so I was the book. The premise of the book is, whether you're going to open 5,000 locations or one, you should start and build a company like you're going to have 5,000. So I was really always big into systems and documentation. So it was painful. I mean, I can remember my partner couldn't even sit still. He would have a golf club. He'd be like walking around the room as we were meeting with our consultants. So it was painful, but I knew that in order to have any type of success, I didn't know at the time, by the way, that we were both visionaries. I guess maybe I thought I was an integrator, but I really wasn't. And so
you were a visionary trying to be an integrator. You were a cat trying to be a dog.
Yeah. So I painfully wrote out systems, and I painfully hired people and had them write out systems. And so we just kind of limped along. And look, it wasn't always rosy. Just because I sold 4,000 houses, I made 5 business mistakes in those 19 years that cost me $9 million. $9 million.
Okay. So how do you recover from that? So let's talk about that.
Yeah,
because I think that's where we learn and grow the most. And I think that's where the most value is. And why, Gene? Because it helps people see that you're sitting here, you've survived, you've thrived, you've arrived, you've survived, thrived, and arrived. Okay. I'll have to remember that. But that also you bounce back from those things. And that, so talk about, because that's where we learn, that's where we grow. 5 huge mistakes he made in those 19 years that cost him over $9 million. So
yeah, I think the greatest lesson learned before we get into the details is why now. 2 years ago, I went through a major life transformation trying to get my son help for anxiety. And I was told by this lady that I had a tic, and that I probably had unresolved childhood trauma. And I came out and worked with her ex-Navy SEAL husband and herself. And in 3 hours, my life radically changed. And I realized that for 47 years of my life, I was living under the untruth that I wasn't good enough and that I had to prove myself. And now looking back at those 5 business mistakes, those were all about trying to prove myself to the world. So 3 development deals that we bought in the summer of 2005. Talk about scaling. Now that I think about this, I bought my first house in July of 2003. The first 6 months, Rihanna, of 2005, we had $1.5 million of net profit on the books. We had made $1.5 million net profit. I thought I was the smartest guy in the world, even though because on a conscious level, I thought I was the smartest person, but my subconscious, which drives all of your behavior, 95% of your behavior is from your subconscious thinking. So when you're fighting with your spouse, It has nothing to do with the actual fight. It has to do with your programming as a 6-year-old child. So we made $1.5 million. I'm sitting at my desk. I got my feet kicked back. I'm like, everyone else in this business is, I guess they're just not as smart as me. I'm really smart. I'm going to be retired here pretty soon going at this pace. And so I'm like, let's start buying development deals. I mean, I'm so smart. What could go wrong? So in like a 60 day stretch of 2005, we bought 3 development deals that ended up costing us $3 million and took us, one of them, 10 years to extricate ourselves from. We bought a house that cost us.
Oh my God, that must have been hell.
It was hell. It cost us $900,000 on one house because we didn't look at the lot. It was a corner lot, and we were going to tear it down, tear down the house, subdivide it, and put it into two houses. And we hired this consulting company, and it's always, you always have to take the blame for everything. But they didn't tell us. We went hard on the deposit. We lost $934,000 on that one house. We had no personal guarantees. We could have walked away. We paid back every penny over 2 years. And till this day, that lender still lends to us. We've probably borrowed in return $250 million from that one lender. Private, two brothers.
That is the power of integrity right there. Wow.
Yeah. So the lesson, more than what the lessons are in the actual mistakes, the lesson is that your subconscious mind controls everything in your life. And if anything is bad in your life, it comes down to one thing. It comes down to thinking. So if you're overweight, if you drink too much, if you smoke too much, if you're always stressed, if you have depression, anxiety, you have a shitty marriage, your business is in chaos, all of it comes down to your
mindset.
I don't even like to say mindset, because mindset's bullshit without your thinking. It's really your thinking of how your subconscious mind feels about yourself. I've been to countless mindset sessions. I saw Zig Ziglar. I saw Tony Robbins. None of that shit matters when you've got unresolved stress from your childhood that is implanted in your mind because that's what it's supposed to do, and you don't know it's controlling you. So throw mindset out the window.
Let me ask you. NLP?
So
are you trained in it? Is that what they use? Because I've gone through NLP training. I use NLP training. I use mindset to encompass thoughts, feelings, beliefs, fears, all of that. And I would say, and I say mindset is everything because there's a compilation of things that influence things. But I like what you're saying about thinking, because that is the action that you have control over that actually creates all those other things.
Everything.
Yeah. And that is, you're absolutely right. So we've got Elizabeth.
So you asked a question. Let me just answer that question. So you asked me about NLP. I use a combination of NLP, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and hypnosis. That's how I now radically change people's lives in an average of 3 to 4 hours. I just got off the phone. I've got to share this. I just got off the phone with I have a 5-week program, and I just hung up on the Zoom call with a lady from Alabama. She came to me 6 weeks ago, because there was 2 weeks between one of our sessions. She said, had I not taken her on a Saturday session, which I've never done a Saturday session and haven't done one since. She said, had you not taken me, I would have hospitalized myself for depression. I just got off with her, and she's like, my life is amazing. I have no depression anymore. I'm not stuck in bed. My relationship's getting better with my husband. She has been to countless doctors, prescription medication, SSRIs. And what did I do? I got her to change her thinking in a matter of 6 hours.
Yesenia Vasquez Rosa is on here. She and I have both gone through NLP training, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy. I've been, trained in, I was a science of mind practitioner. So I totally resonate with everything you're saying. My degree was in psychology. So we are 2 peas in a pod. I love this. Senia's soaking it up. Please, anybody who's watching, let us know, because really, there's a lot of things that all focus very granularly with someone like fear. And like, for those of you just joining us, Brad is a freaking, not a rock star, but a super duper star. In 19 years, he's done 4,000 flips. If you figure that on a calculator, Andrew Castine, one of my clients, is here. That's 210 flips a year. And it took him 8 months before he got to his first one. And then they scaled and they had he found a partner. They're both visionaries. So let's come back to scaling and then come back. And then I want to finish up some of the real estate stuff so we can geek out about the mind altering, making a difference with people stuff, because I think that'll give credibility, and it is an Unstoppable Real Estate Investor podcast after all. So talk about the scaling from struggled 8 months, then you did about 15 in your first year, and then, and then you lost it. You got greedy, you got cocky, whatever it was. 3 development projects. One house took you 10 years to get out from under. It all cost you about $9 million, all said and told. And you're still standing and you're doing well and you're thriving. So talk about the bouncing back from that, not technical. I agree with you. It's not technical. Talk about the mindset, the thinking, the emotions of how you crawled out of that and what you learned from that.
Look, there was never an option. There was no alternative option. It was like,
Right.
I'm not going to go back and work for somebody. And then I had a family of 4 kids to feed. So it was just like, what else am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and cry and like fold up my business? I mean, we had to bring in outside money. There was a Christmas Eve that I was on the phone with my partner talking to a bankruptcy attorney. I mean, it got bad, but the whole time I'm just like, I just kept plowing forward. What did Winston Churchill say? When you're in hell, just keep going. That's what I did. I just kept going. And I don't look at any of these, all of these mistakes. Nothing in life happens to you, in my opinion, is ever bad. You may think it's bad, but every single thing you go through in life is done for you and not to you. And it's to teach you a lesson, not teach you a lesson in a bad way. It's just who we are as souls. I now believe that our souls are going to go on and live different lives. And this is just what we're learning on this.
You're either a cause or effect. You're either a victim or you're taking 100% responsibility for all results in your life.
Absolutely. Everything that that's going on in your life right now, you manifested it. You have responsibility. And if you want it to change, it will never change until you take full responsibility. So my attitude, even before I went through this transformation, was just like, what am I going to do? Like, it's done. Hopefully it's going to help me. It's going to save me from losing tens of millions of dollars one day. And what did I learn? I learned, don't freaking go do things that you have no idea what you're doing. But just because you can flip a house doesn't mean you can knock down a house. The other 2 deals were actually multi-unit. Doesn't mean you can buy a house and put the freaking a 3rd level on it when the DC government won't allow it, or do a condo conversion when you have no idea what you're doing. So that's a lesson. And then the lesson in hindsight is entrepreneurs typically start businesses to make a lot of money to prove their worth, or because they lack control as a child and they want the control as an entrepreneur. Those 2 things aren't good reasons. So in the last 2 years, I have switched from I want to make a bunch of money to prove myself, because now I don't have to prove anything, to I am on this planet now, hopefully another 60 years. All I want to do is make the largest impact that I can. So I start looking at my business. How can I impact people? So now I'm coaching my people who are struggling with depression, anxiety, and all this stuff all of our employees struggle with. And guess what? We had one of our best years ever last year. Is there any coincidence? No, because I'm not focused on let's go make a bunch of money. I'm focused on how can we impact our sellers, our investors, our team members the most, and then the money comes.
Yeah, and raising the vibrational frequency, and like attracts like, and it's a ripple effect. And there's a lot of lip service paid to that, but it's scientific. Go out there and prove it to yourself. Notice when you're around someone who's a real negative Nelly and how their energy pulls you down versus being around someone like you or me who's full of possibility and potential and happy and wanting to make a difference in the world. I have this thing on my wall that I quote often about Albert Einstein that says everything's energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the result of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, it's physics. So speak about that a little bit.
Well, look, I mean, I'm learning this too, right? We're all energy. Like when people are like, we're one, people are like, what the F does that mean? We're all one. Well, this desk that I'm looking at and this microphone, it's just energy that's in a different form. So we all are energy. We all came from the same creator. We're all going to the same place. So yeah, energy, that's all we are is energy. So I think it's important to
So you can be oil and water, or you can be in the flow and be like, I'm one. Now that sounds esoteric, but people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and other thought leaders are really bridging that gap. The Deepak Chopras are bridging that gap between spirituality and science. And science is, in its simplest form, a science is there's a hypothesis you go to prove, you prove it, you get a result, and then anybody else who does that thing the way you did it should get the same result. Now, we talk a lot about that in high performance coaching, in NLP, that model behavior. That's why I do this podcast, why I share extraordinary people like you with the world and get the word out, because like attracts like. But if you inspire just one person, if you make a difference with one person, now we're paying it forward. And now a seed's been planted, and then another one and another one. And what else do you want to say about like just your real estate investment journey? Or would you like to share more? Because I know you have a call coming up, a hard stop at 1. What do you want to share about what you're doing now, where you're at now?
Oh, I mean, I got to go there. I mean, the real estate stuff, like you can teach people to go make millions of dollars in real estate, but if they don't have the stuff figured out that I'm about to talk about, it doesn't mean anything. And so many people who don't have money think that once they get money, it's going to bring them happiness. And if you think that's the case, just look at the Michael Jacksons and the Princes of the world, and I could go on and on and on and on, right? Money doesn't bring you happiness. You may think it does, but once you get to a certain level, $80,000 a year, they've looked at, doesn't matter if you make.
There's scientific proof. It doesn't, the happiness level doesn't go up. Once you have enough and all your needs are met and money is no longer a problem, meaning you don't have enough of it, having more and more and more does not affect the happiness level.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would say that 99.9% of the world's problems, from terrorism to prisons being full, to rape, molestations, addictions, obesity, divorce rates, you name it, terrorism, wars, all have to do with an individual's lack of self-love and self-compassion. And you may be like, oh, that sounds so woo-woo, but it's not. Why does someone lack self-love and self-compassion? Because they're born with it. They lack self-love and self-compassion because they went through stresses in their childhood that caused their beautiful brain to do its job and create coping mechanisms, which are really just stories about why is this happening. So when something bad happens to a 6-year-old boy, what does that 6-year-old boy's brain say to get him through it? I must be bad. That's what my 6-year-old self did. At 6 years old, it helped me get through that. At 47 years old, when that same voice was inside my head, it didn't wake up. I didn't wake up and say, I'm a bad boy. I had no idea. But if you look at my 2 failed marriages and my alcohol use, my weed use, my $9 million worth of business mistakes, buying a yacht and trying to take it to the Bahamas, on and on and on and on, you just have to know what drove all that. And what drove all that are these implanted programmed thoughts that are stuck in your brain that 98% of people have no freaking idea even exists. And they're wondering, why are they in a shitty marriage? Why is their business in chaos? Why do they come home and drink 3 glasses of wine every single night? Why are they always stressed out? Why are they always mad? Everything comes down to the same thing. And it can be fixed in a matter of 3 to 5 hours if you want change. You don't need to go get on drugs. You don't need to go through talk therapy for 20 years. You can do it in like 3 to 5 hours and completely.
I'm one of those bobblehead things you put on a dashboard right now, because I'm like, yes, amen. You're singing my tune. Yep. I absolutely everything you're saying. So talk a little bit. You said you had a 5-week program. Talk about what your passion is right now and what your program involves and the cost and all that. And when we get off, come back into my group and find this post and put a comment in on your links and stuff. Okay.
Sure, absolutely. So if we were having
After you set me up as an affiliate.
Listen, if we'd had this conversation 3 years ago, I'd have been like, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. You're asking me if I have self-love. Yeah, I love myself. Do you care if what other people think? Rayon, no, I don't care at all. So now looking back, based on all of those results, I didn't have self-love. So I created a self-love quiz, bradchandler.com/quiz. Go test yourself. If you're sitting here saying, oh, I love myself, go take that and see what you get. If you end up
I'm
with
going
lack
to
of
type that in here for them.
bradchandler.com/quiz. Here's the great part. If you come up with mild or lack of self-love, don't take that as a woe is me. Take that as, oh my God, my life can radically change and change in a matter of 3 to 5 hours. So I have a 5-week program. We focus on figuring out the source of your pain. I then go into how are we going to go about changing that? Then we use hypnosis to access your subconscious, because your subconscious brain knows exactly the source of your pain. Then through neuroplasticity, which is your brain's natural ability to regrow new neural pathways and change your thinking, which will radically change your behavior, we do that. And then finally, I teach you how to do this for the rest of your life, get you out of that invisible prison that you've been in your whole life and keep you for the rest of your life in this joyous and blissful state. That if you get triggered, you're triggered for minutes or seconds as opposed to days like I used to be.
Love it. So when we get done with this, like I put in bradchandler.com/quiz, but 5-week program, you've given us a real broad stroke on it. How much is it?
We'll discuss that, because I have I have different coaches that work for me. So I've got a wide range of pricing.
Okay. But if someone wants to do it, do they start at bradchandler.com/quiz and then they'll get a pipeline?
Yeah, well, I don't even have I don't have any, I have nothing set up. You don't even have to put in your email, but if you go to bradchandler.com/contact, I put out a daily message on this stuff every single day. So all of my social media, you can connect with me, and there's an opportunity to schedule a call. I actually just started a Facebook group called How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. That link is in there too, if you want to join that group, bradchandler.com/contact.
We do very similar work, and I'm loving what you're saying and curious, and we have very similar backgrounds as far as the coaching type of work that we do. So I'm loving this.
Help me figure out how to impact millions of people. This isn't
okay. We need to talk about that, and we can do that off camera, maybe even negotiate a little bit of a trade or something, because I'm curious how you do things, and I'd love to support you, and maybe there's something we can do together. That would be fun. I absolutely would love to help you and get you plugged in. And you also do you know Patrick Ypez?
I don't.
All right. I have people we have things to talk about. All right. So look, I've put in those links. So Yesenia is saying, so funny how I just happened to see you were live, and it's about this because she's one of our tribe members, right, Yesenia? This is so there's people I need to connect you with that, yes, this is very synchronistic. And my favorite, literally one of my favorite clients, Andrew Castine. I've got extreme self-love, very cool, which he does. And he grew up with a psychologist as a father, and he's got a good sense of self.
Good job, Andrew, man.
Therefore, he's really fun to work with, and he's freaking a superstar. So let me ask you this, Brad. This has been so much fun, and I want to respect your time and appreciate that you were forgiving about me needing to start late because of this other meeting. I know you have a meeting at 1 Eastern. It's 5 till. If you were to jump up on a rooftop and you had a captive audience and you could just share anything, any advice that they would hear and heed, what would that advice be?
You don't have to suffer anymore. You're suffering as a result of the untruths that are buried in your brain. It all comes down to thinking. And in a matter of 3 to 5 hours, you can radically change your life and end the suffering. That's it.
Are you mostly auditory
Um,
in your processing of information?
I'm not even sure I know. No, I'm a combination of visual and auditory. Why do you ask?
Because I saw you looking down.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, down and to the right. I was just curious. You have to check with different people because some people are reversed. I'm very kinesthetic and visual. So, but we could probably geek out and talk for hours and have our own podcast. So yeah, we want to schedule some time. I have some ideas for you to get the word out and for you to kind of someone to connect you with who can build your whole marketing funnel for you. You can afford him. He's affordable, but his whole team are phenomenal in what they can do for you at a fraction what other people would charge you. Get your website up, get your emails, get your outreach on social media, get the whole ball of wax done for you. So I can connect you with that and then really plug you into some groups and stuff too. So I look forward to that. And I
Awesome.
look forward to I'm curious about your program. So we have some things to talk about. We'll go offline on. Anything else you want to say that we didn't get a chance to cover? Anything in wrapping up before we cut you loose?
I mean, no, other than that, I went through a massive transformation and life is so beautiful when you just see it through a different set of lenses. All of us are love at our core. And one of the most profound things that happened to me was before I actually went through the transformation, I was doing some coaching and I said to this lady, I go, can you please make me feel the way that I do when I'm high on marijuana? Make me feel like that all the time. The feeling being that I can be myself. And she goes, I said, I want to be, loving, and I want to be patient, and I want to laugh, and I want to sing, and I want to tell jokes and not worry about what other people think. And she goes, Brad, that is you. That's you. You just got filters up from the pain and the stress that you've gone through as a child. So we're all pure love. It's just we've gone through had some imperfect parents and imperfect caregivers that have made us feel a certain way, but it's still in there, and we can get it back for you if you want.
Yeah, so I use this analogy, and you can steal it too with clients to help them get this, like get it on the simplicity of it and that it is accessible. And I've used this where I say, imagine that you grew up on an island, a remote island, and there was one stoplight on the island. And on that island, you were taught that red was go and green was stop. And your whole life, that's what you learned. And then you decide you want to go and see the world, and you're going out in the world, and there's this just craziness that you are having a hard time grasping, that like the world, holy cow, it's like red is stop and green is go. And you're having to rearrange your molecules because you were programmed to believe that red is go and green is stop. And now there's this whole blow that paradigm away because the rest of the world, no, that's not it. It is that it's such a simple concept, but we're so deeply programmed at our core. And it is that unconscious mind, subconscious mind, whatever term you want to use, where that's where we got to rip it up by the roots. And the thing is, a lot of people think there's a place for therapy. There's a place for counseling. There's a place for consulting. But with coaching, it is about being dynamic in moving forward. Coaching is about how do I go forward and achieve something. And what we're talking about, it's more about, like, there is a coaching element to it, but it's really awareness is curative. And it is about actually realizing that there is a solution out there for you that both Brad and I are capable of helping you with, where you can literally, in a matter of hours, completely shift it. Like it's not a Band-Aid on a broken leg and, oh, I feel better, but it's still there. Like it gets ripped out by the roots, never to return. And I'll end with my quick story that
I got to
Yeah.
jump, Rayon. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
someone's waiting on.
and I get it. And I'll end with everybody saying, look, he's got to go at 1, but we can always have another session, another time for you to come on as a guest.
Yeah.
We'll have more conversations, but let us know in the chat what you got from this, what you want more of. So Brad, it's just been juicy, wonderful, lovely. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you some more.
All right, take
Bye,
care.
everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.